Good afternoon, I'm Stacey with the Los Angeles Times. It's official, Dr. Dre is finally a billionaire thanks to Apple's purchase of Beats by Dre. Joining me to discuss the purchase is tech reporter Chris O'Brien. Chris, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon to talk about $3 billion.
Sure, happy to be here.
So, kind of go over just the general stuff of why Apple would want to purchase Beats by Dre.
Well, that's actually a question a lot of people are still actually asking even after they announced the deal. But here's what we know at this point. Beats is really two companies. One, Beats Electronics makes headphones and speakers, and that's sort of what they're really known for at this point. They were founded back in 2006, and they're considered one of the leaders in the sort of high-end premium headphone space, although critics will disagree about whether they're actually worth the price you pay for them. And then in January, they just launched Beats Music Service, which is a streaming subscription music service that we learned this week has about 250,000 subscribers, which underwhelmed the number of people. So Apple sort of gets both of those, and they get two pretty glamorous new employees with Jimmy Iovine and Dr. Dre, who will have offices in Cupertino, although shockingly have said they don't plan to move to Cupertino.
So is this going to be kind of like HBO Silicon Valley, where you vest and rest, where they're not actually going to be doing any work, but they'll just have kind of a symbolic office space in Apple?
Well, I think with Dre, it's maybe. He seems like he's going to have a little bit lesser role. But with Jimmy, and everyone's calling him Jimmy, so I'm just going to call him Jimmy.
We're friends,
in fact,
okay.
In fact, I believe his official title will actually be Jimmy. But so he stepped down from Interscope, which he founded, and turned that over to someone else. And this is what he'll be doing now, is having this role with Apple. And the presumption is, well, again, they have not gotten into the specifics, but the presumption is they're bringing in this guy who has had this remarkable career in the music industry as an entrepreneur, as a producer, as a finder of talent, to kind of help them navigate to whatever the next generation of music listening is going to look like.
So will Beats still exist on its own as a company? Will you still be able to go out and buy Beats headphones?
Yes. So the Beats brand will continue to exist, although it's not one of these deals where Beats is going to continue to be this amorphous entity that exists in some other part of the world doing its own thing. It is being brought into Apple. The headphones are going into one part of the company, and the music streaming stuff goes into another part of the company. You will still be able to buy Beats stuff, and it's worth noting that's significant for two reasons. I mean, one, Apple will have to manage two brands, which is sort of a new thing for them. But also, the Beats Music service is available on Android as well as Apple products. And of course, Apple has not yet made its iTunes service available on Android phones. So this is kind of their first foray, if you will, into really putting stuff on any kind of Android platform.
Well, Beats, according to your story, has owns 62% of the market share for headphones in the United States, which is a $1 billion market. But one of our commenters noticed that you're not wearing Beats. What do you think about the headphones? Do you think it's worth a $3 billion purchase?
Well, let me be candid and say I've never tried Beats headphones, but because I'm just, I'm just not. I'm a little bit of an audio nut, but it's just not something I've been in the market for. But I will say two things about them. Again, like, reviews are pretty mixed, and I'm being charitable when I say that in terms of the sound quality. But also as like someone who rides public transportation up here in Silicon Valley and just walking around San Francisco, it's pretty hard to not see someone every corner you turn wearing these things with their iPhone or their Samsung Galaxy or whatever the case may be in their hand. They're very popular, and they're clearly a status item in the tech world.
Yeah. Well, also there was a great quote in your story as well from Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, saying about Beats headphones and Dre and Jimmy that we've quote unquote we've dated, we've gone steady, and now we're getting married. Obviously, this deal has kind of been going on for a while, but do you think this is Apple's attempt to kind of buy their way into the cool kids scene? You know, to young youth themselves up a little bit with their image?
I think to a degree, yes. I mean, there's always some talk about the buzzworthiness of Apple products. Even though it's only been 6 or 7 years since the first iPhone came out, it's almost sort of like the thing that your dad buys, or the danger is it becoming seen as the thing that your parents buy versus what the kids buy. But the other thing to note about that remark is that Iovine has been really a friend of the company for years. I mean, he got a lot of credit almost a decade ago for being a real advocate in the record industry and the music publishing industry for people to embrace iTunes at a time when it was just getting off the ground. He was a clear cheerleader for that and was telling the music industry, this is the future, get on board now or you'll regret it. And they did to a large degree. And I think, historically at Apple, that it just created a lot of historic goodwill that we'll kind of see being paid back in a sense.
And this deal, it's kind of a little off. I mean, you don't normally hear about Apple purchasing a lot of companies. Is this different for them, or is this something that it's just because it's a huge brand we're finally hearing about some purchase by Apple?
It's very different, and again, it's like a deal like this. If Beats were, say, being bought by Samsung or Sony, we all might have written about it and then kind of very quickly moved on. We're talking about a $3 billion deal in a part of the world here in Silicon Valley where, we just all saw Facebook a few months ago paying $19 billion for WhatsApp. Which was really mind-boggling. I mean, gargantuan sum for a mobile app that had little or no revenue and only a handful of employees. I mean, that's the sort of thing up here that people just, their jaws hit the floor when they hear about that. Paying $3 billion for a company that had probably more than $1 billion in revenue is, at the end of the day, actually pretty conservative. I mean, it's not. It's not like they're just flushing some huge sum of money down the toilet betting on some off-the-wall gadget that some high schooler just cooked up in their parents' bedroom. It's a real company with real revenues and employees and major investors in it. So, I think the downside for Apple is pretty low. But that said, yeah, it's the biggest deal in their history at a company that's not known for paying over $1 billion for anything. I mean, their biggest acquisition before this was $400 million, and that was for a deal that brought Steve Jobs back to them.
Yeah. Okay, well, last question for you. I wanted to do the math with you to see if Dre really is a billionaire now. So $3 billion deal, but $400 million of it is in stock in Apple that will be vested over some unknown amount of time. So if he has a 50% stake, that only hits in Beats. That's what, 1.3 billion for Dre?
Well, okay, so here's the deal. There's another investor called the Carlyle Group, which actually has 50% of Beats. So if you want to know who was the big winner in this, these guys came along last November and invested $500 million. And they're getting $1.5 million. They're getting $1.5 billion back 6 months later. So
solid investment.
That's the kind of deal you and I don't ever get to make because you don't have $500 million laying around. But in terms of then, Jimmy and Dre, their stakes are substantial, but not quite that high. But I think, reports I've seen indicate that I think they're going to just on this portion of it, they'll make between 300 and 400 million each. They both cashed some out last fall when that investor came in, so they made reportedly some amount of money there. So I think it's safe to say that they probably got at least $500 million out of this, maybe more. And then, as you mentioned, plus some stock. So who knows where Apple stock will go in the next couple of years. But and then you put that together with all the money he's made in the past. I think it's more than an idle boast.
Well, maybe there's still time for Diddy to surpass him with Ciroc or 50 Cent with vitamin water. They still have a little bit of time. Chris, thank you so much for joining us to talk about this deal. And if you guys want to learn more about the Beats by Dre sale to Apple or anything more about tech, please visit us at latimes.com.